The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts. This podcast should not be considered a professional news service. The content is for entertainment and informational purposes only. Accuracy and completeness are not guaranteed. We are regular folks having a regular conversation. We hope that you'll join us.
It ain't about, folks, listen, it ain't about red or blue.
Yeah.
It's about me and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we've got to
right.
come to grips with and comprehend.
Welcome to another episode of Appalachian Living, Almost Heaven, Nearly Hell. Today, we have a wonderful guest. I've been trying to get him here for like 2 years, and we finally got him here. And you probably have seen him on the national news recently.
He's famous.
Yeah, in studio. And then we also have his partner in crime, who is never too far away.
The one and only.
The one and only on Zoom. So we got Brad Davis here in studio, and we got Caitlyn Ware on Zoom. And man, we're so excited to have you guys.
It's good to be with you finally.
Finally.
Yeah. I was telling you earlier, when the weather breaks, get me over here again so we can go down to the creek and film down there.
And we'll also make sure that Caitlyn is able to actually come to the creek too. Now, we've had both of you on this podcast separately. Caitlyn had her own episode. You had a little mini episode where you showed us how your water buffalo
That's
worked.
right. Yeah.
Because these are the two that are responsible for getting Wyoming County the water buffalo. And one, I mean, of course, I've thanked you already, but thank you. Thank you for everything that you guys did for that, because that was rough.
Yeah, well, we're just glad to help our neighbors, and that's what we're all about, is trying to help our neighbors, whether you live in McDowell County or you live in Wyoming County or Mingo or wherever across southern West Virginia you might be. We're all neighbors and we're all family, and we all have to take care of each other in times of crisis like we find ourselves in now with our water situation, our collective water situation, because it's a region-wide issue.
Yeah, it's not just one area. Every county and municipality has some type of water issue. Mm-hmm. They're not all the same.
Right.
They all have their own little issues, and every issue is different, but it's still, water is scarce here. We don't drink our tap water. I don't know anybody in West Virginia that really drinks their tap water.
Yeah, I don't.
Unless you're on a filtered spring, which I have a well in a really
clean,
in a really pure, clean area, and it comes through an inline filter, and it's essentially filtered spring water, and it's like gold.
That's what it
really
used to be, though.
Yeah,
all over, it
exactly.
used to be that way. I mean, you'll hear people say, our water used to be the best water that you will ever find, and now we have to pay hundreds of dollars a month just to get extra water to drink. And then there's people that can't even bathe in their water.
So I know that we talk a lot about the water issues and stuff, but I want to back up just a little bit, and I don't want to waste time on introductions, but what I want to do is talk about history of why the water is the way it is, right? Like, I think before we talk about what we're doing to address those issues, I think all of the work I've seen done is amazing, but there's a lot of backstory that needs to kind of be filled in to understand, why do all these communities struggle so badly with water? And I think each community has its specific issues. So I don't know if Caitlyn and Brad, if you two want to address maybe within your communities what you're seeing are the things that are creating these problems, because I think that's important to understand before we talk about where to move forward to fix them.
Yeah, so I'm in McDowell County, and I serve 5 different communities in that county. I'm a pastor. I've got 5 churches in 5 different communities. 3 of those communities are water impacted, and I think they are kind of a microcosm of the region-wide issue and the complexities and the differences of those issues, because what you have is aging, failing infrastructure with municipal and public water systems, where these systems were built by the coal companies decades ago. And when they were built, they were state-of-the-art systems, and they were great. But over time, as the coal companies have left the municipalities or the counties to care for them, with a shrinking tax base that we have, and with the loss of population that causes the shrinking tax base, these communities no longer have the resources to upkeep, to maintain these systems. So essentially what you have are failing infrastructure systems that is causing a multitude of issues. Secondarily to that, you also have well water issues. People who are still using wells are dealing with contamination issues that you're going to find anywhere where an extraction economy has been prevalent. So those are kind of the main, the highlighted issues that we're facing in our communities.
And then you have a third issue of natural disasters that kind of exacerbate those other two issues,
like flooding and
right. And so which is common in these areas. Go ahead, Caitlin.
No, I was just gonna say too. I was trying to find the pictures of it, but I've been kind of digging up some pictures out of Russell Lee's album. So there was this guy named Russell Lee back in the mid 1940s who went around Central Appalachia and just kind of took pictures of daily life, right? And I saw recently there were a number of pictures of people with pump, well pumps next to their houses, and one of the captions on one of them was, if they wanted water for their camp house, they had to pay to dig the well, right? And so I mean, this is I don't know. I have no proof to back this up, but I also kind of wonder if one of the reasons that, we're facing some issues today is I imagine, I mean, that's a big investment if you're going to dig a well for a house that you don't own, right? And so, there's the situation like Brad said of the company built a system and now it's old, but then you also have the situation of the company never built the system. And so for these areas that are still relying on well water, or in areas that just, kind of never had a system built, they were responsible for a system that would have cost a ton of money on a property they don't own.
Yeah, that's so here in this stretch of land that where we're at, a lot of the land here that people live on is leased through the coal company, the land companies. Back in the 80s, we all had wells through here. We all had our own wells. Some of the land, this land was owned by a lady, but it was trailer park, so people rented it. But just across the creek, there was a well that was a lease by the coal company. Well, in the 90s, I think it was the 90s, the coal company sunk all the wells that was on this road. So they had to go and get city water from Welch to here. And that's why we have Welch city water now. But the issue sometimes is, even with these city waters, is they are not the best, and they put too much chemicals in it. And so that will not be good for your skin. And it doesn't help. I had another point, and I forgot what it was.
So if I could add to that, when they put city water through here.
When they put city water through here, the residents had to pay to get it dug between the meter and their home.
Well, it was free to begin with, and if you had to opt into that, or not. And a lot of folks along this road said, I have great water, I'm going to keep my well. And so they opted out. And now that their wells are contaminated, they now have to pay to get that city water put in. So a lot of folks just don't have that.
And a lot of folks that, I heard some people say, well, when we were offered to get the water, we didn't trust the city water. And we had, our well water was okay. But it wasn't too long after that they were sunk. So you couldn't get any water. And then on the other side of the road, they sunk their wells. I believe they sunk the wells, or something happened to where they had to put actual big water tanks in everybody's yard, and then they would have to go and fill them up every month. So those are that's just things that happen in just this area. It's so different, and I bet you we could have people come in and say, well, this happened to our water and this happened to our water, and there's so many different reasons as to why. If you say one reason, that could be a reason, but that's also not true for another place.
Well, and I highlight that because when other people who don't experience the complexity of this every day, it seems like a simple problem to fix.
Yeah, why don't you just put some
system.
water pipes in there?
Filter. It's filtration.
Put a filter
system.
in there, right?
There's another thing that I wanted to talk. There's somebody with filtration that wants to help, but I don't know if it will.
Right. In certain circumstances, it might, but not, so as you all are working in these communities, how, the layers of things that you have to address, talk a little bit about that for us.
Caitlyn.
Elise,
Y'all
that was a lawyer question. Jeez.
Y'all made the same face, by the way. I just want to say, I watched you do it, and then I watched her do it.
And another person, no, Brad, you take it.
I really want y'all to be, super candid here, because I think you all are, the work you've done at the Capitol, the work you've done on TV, the work you've done on podcasts and within the community is so professional. And, how to, in a moment here, just, real talk, it's tough. How tough is it to navigate these things and, point the right people in the right places to do the right things?
It's tough.
You're in a safe space here.
It's tough because unless you are here, unless you're on the ground and experiencing what's happening, it's hard to wrap your mind around the issue, the causes of it, the possible solutions to it.
The fact that not everybody's on the same page about fixing it.
No.
And how to fix it.
Honestly, when you say you have to be here, there's people that are here that cannot wrap their mind around it still.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles. I think another, to go along to that point, I think a lot of people are here. Not a lot of people, but there are a few people here that don't want to face the reality of what's happening, because it's almost like you're bashing your home, right? And I get that. But at the same time, all of us deserve to have safe water. And unless we raise these issues and keep talking about it and keep bringing it to the attention of those in power, those who have the power to fix it, then we're going to continue to have unsafe water, and people are going to continue to get sick, and people are going to continue to die.
Yeah.
So we have to raise awareness.
What else are we going to do?
Can. Right.
What else are we going to do?
Right. Because water is the basic necessity of life.
Yeah.
Without water, you cannot live. It's why we keep saying during this campaign to get this legislation through in Charleston, water is life. We are literally fighting for our lives down here.
The body's made up of how much percentage of water?
80% water, something like that. But I mean, you have to have water to live.
Yeah.
These communities have to have safe water to continue to survive.
You have to have clean water to grow food.
Yes.
And for the animals to be able to live safely. I was talking to somebody online today, and, we were talking about the data centers, coming in and stuff. And we were talking about how the deer population is dwindling, and how we're afraid to even eat the deer now.
Sure.
Because we don't know what kind of diseases they could have.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you all over in this area along Indian Creek and all the issues that have been going on Indian Creek, there have been dead deer
People have
found
and
along and other animals,
and
right?
they're like dogs and
Right.
I mean, all livestock
Yep.
dead.
Yeah.
And it's scary especially when the whole reason. Well, it's not the whole reason. I mean, this property I grew up on. My dad owns it. But what I want to do ultimately with this property is build a food forest. I want to bring these old like pawpaw trees and some black walnut trees and like the blueberries, blackberries. You know, I want to bring all of these perennial vegetables and fruits back. But if our water is contaminated,
Right.
what's going to do? What's
Yeah.
the point?
We work with folks in McDowell County who are trying to develop a sustainable food
We're
system.
going there.
Yeah.
Jason.
Oh,
Yeah, the edge
I'm
front.
on my way to Tart.
and it's same thing. How can you create something like that? How can you do that when the water is unsafe?
yeah.
I mean, you got to have safe water.
Which is the whole reason why I got into this whole like water thing, because I moved here starting to like wanting to build this food forest, and I'm like, well, shit. This water
This might be a bad idea.
Like, you know, and so I got to start at the ground.
So
Virtually.
from that jumping off point, the water's bad, right? And we know that there are reasons it's got to that point. So for 20 years that I've been doing it, we've been beating the drum, calling the legislators, writing the letters, showing up in Charleston. You got the water crisis in 2024, which was 12 years ago, where the hazmat team had to come and take water away. That was,
2014.
what did I say?
2024.
2014. Time is just so, squishy in my mind these days. But to those folks who say, well, why aren't you calling people? Why aren't you, contacting the legislature? Why aren't you doing these things? Literally hundreds of people for decades have been doing just that at every level you can think of.
Yes.
So that's not the solution, right?
Right.
Like that isn't the solution. So what has been happening more recently? How are you all evolving that?
And I'm glad you said that, and Caitlyn, jump in. But I'm glad that you said that, because this is not something new, right? That this is a battle that has been going on for decades of people to get clean water. I just saw someone talking the other day about that they were a part of the Rockefeller administration in like 1981,
know who you're talking
and they were bringing jars of dirty water to the Capitol then. That's over 40 years ago.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that we give props to the people who've been fighting that battle for generations and for decades, because we're standing on their shoulders and building on the foundation that they laid. But yeah, it's so people have been yelling at the top of their voice at lawmakers for decades, and when it comes right down to it, the solution to all of this is simple, right? I mean, you talk to them and it's like, new math that they're trying to throw out at you. But the solution is really simple, and it comes down to funding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Investment in infrastructure.
Investment in infrastructure. That is the solution to the issue. And they try to say that, well, the state doesn't have the money. They do. What the state does not have is
Morals? Sorry. I'm sorry.
Who said that?
Oh my God.
What the state does not have is the political will
Correct.
Or backbone.
to fund
sorry.
to
Who is
properly
she?
fund these projects. And Caitlyn, you jump in and add whatever you would like to on this.
Yeah, I guess I'd just add that, like I was talking with Maria Gano recently about just like, we were just talking about like how this has been an ongoing thing, right? And like, what are some tips? Like what would you, say? And she, we got to talking about how social media has really made
Just getting ready to go there. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
game
social
changer.
media has made this possible in a way that, you know, we can have both, you know, live kind of testimonies, if you will, like stories being shared, and also pictures from across the region regularly. I mean, there's a lot less legwork. There's a lot less. I guess what I'm saying is, like, you can show a regional issue by combining all of these, you know, testimonies and pictures and things in a way that, like, you know, we've been beating the drum about Gary in McDowell County for a while, but, you know, it is more than just Gary. And so I think, like, by showing that, okay, let's look at Gary, remember a regional issue. And I think that social media can do that in a way that can keep the pressure up that wasn't able to be done before in the same way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I really think to that point, I think that the emergence of social media within the last 20 years, I think that's why you see finally some momentum starting to build towards people saying, you know, or awareness being raised on the issue, and people starting to kind of coalesce around the issue and raise their voices and saying,
More
hey,
people are talking about it.
more people are talking about it. I think more people are starting to feel comfortable.
And more people
about
know that
talking about
other people are talking about
Yes.
it. I think that's the thing, is that we've been so siloed for so long, and that's been
Yep.
very effective for the people who don't have really the will to address the issue, is that we all, and because of the causes of the water pollution and contamination, and we brag about our $1 billion Coalfields, but can't provide water systems and upgrade and maintain those. There's a tension there within the community that you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. You don't want to push back against this coal company who provides jobs and some security within your community to keep you there. And so that tension ebbs and flows and builds and disperses as the economy goes, as different things happen, right? Well, right now we've got hundreds and hundreds of people being laid off in coal mines across the area, right? So we're in a position where we're seeing that workforce not be supported by that right now, you know, and that's an incredibly devastating place to be for a lot of these families and these communities. So I'm sure when you are organizing around this and trying to get people involved to start advocating at the state level, or to, you know, do local work or figure out what the actual issue is with their particular water system, the conversations can be complicated. Mm-hmm. And, you know, how do you navigate that? You know, because I know you all love this state and you understand its complexities. How do you deal with that in the field?
Yeah, I always think back to there's a line in Elaine McMillan Sheldon's wonderful documentary King Coal, where she talks about the tension, the fine line that you walk, and the tension that exists in this state between loyalty and truth. Right?
That's exactly the point I'm
Right.
pointing to.
So,
Yes, exactly.
and it is. It's a fine line. Even in discussions with lawmakers, you know, down on this end of the state, you know, they're like, some of them they work for the industry, and they will tell you, I mean, this is a fine line that I have to walk, because if they get mad at me for something that I say, I'm not going to be able to feed my family, right? Mm-hmm. So it is. It's just
It's an abusive relationship.
It is. It is.
You know, here's the thing with that too. You know, so I was at a data center meeting in Mingo yesterday morning, and when we got finished, this guy had said that he'd been repeatedly called a tree hugger. Like that, you know, like that's a slur of some sort, of, like, you know, being called a tree hugger. He's like, I worked underground for like decades. Like, these are coal miners, you know, that are standing up against these data centers. He's like, I don't have clean water. Like, call me what you want. I don't have clean water.
Right.
And I think, combining this with kind of what we're talking about social media is, I think social media also lets people share things on their own terms. And like, what I mean by that is that, we don't have to go door to door, asking, hey, would you be able to share your story about water or something? People can, there's no intrusion on their private lives, right? If they want to share water coming out of their tap, we'll amplify it, right? Mm-hmm. If they want to share their story, we'll amplify it. It's telling their story on their own time and on their own terms. And so, and also the protection of, if you want to share your name, fine. But if you don't want to share your name, we'll still help you amplify it, right? That's also changed a lot. With kind of ability to have to get that make, you know what I mean?
Lean into your microphone. When you lean back a little bit, we lose you. But yes, I know exactly what you mean. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about, forgive me, I'm congested. Obviously, it's that time of year when I guess I'm getting what everybody else has. But
it's the allergies now.
The most support I could give to the folks in Gary was to share out their story and to point it in a direction and kind of shout it in different directions, right? It allowed me to help in what felt like a tangible way, right? And so I think it's kind of both ways. I think it allows people who maybe understand the issue and want to contribute but can't drive 3 or 4 hours down here and show up for people. When I see someone has shared something of mine, it's encouraging and it's reassuring. And so as I've seen the folks in Gary who struggled with the bridge, for example, recognizing that people all over the state cared and stood up and was like, what the heck's going on down there? Even just that is incredibly helpful for these communities, because it shows that they're not alone. They're not isolated in this situation.
And it's an empowerment of people. It's empowering people to speak up, because they do realize they're not alone, and they do have a voice, and they can speak up, and people will listen and be forced to listen to what they have to say. And I think for far too long, particularly down this way in the southern part of the state, we have, and it gets back to that tension, right? But we have felt like we can't speak up against any injustice, because we feel like that if we do, we're betraying. We're betraying family. We're betraying friends. We're betraying. You're
betraying your whole livelihood.
I think, Lindsay, you said it: bite the hand that feeds you, right? But at what cost?
Yeah.
And then when those that are brave enough to stand up, often they were placated at the state level. State legislators would say, okay, come on in, talk to us, tell us what you have, testify in the committee hearing, testify in these hearings. Okay, pat you on the back, go back to the Coalfields, and it's out of sight, out of mind.
Nothing ever changes.
And I think social media has changed that dynamic. We saw some very tangible actions taken at the federal level this year. Not that they were the correct actions or remedies, but they were actual actions that happened at the federal level that, showed that we were seeing.
Yeah, and on the state level too. Just a couple of days ago, the House version of the state budget, the proposed state budget, finally, after a decade, includes $25 million for the Flood Resiliency Fund. And that is totally due to the fact that after the flooding last year, and after there was a bill introduced to finally put money in that fund that didn't even make it out of committee, people were en masse, people stood up and said, "What are you doing? Right. You have to put money in. What's the point of having this fund if you're not going to put money in it?" Same, and along those same lines, what's the point of the state having a rainy day fund, what in effect is an emergency fund that has over $1 billion in it? What's the point of having that if you can't use it for an actual emergency?
Right. Yeah. Amen.
I mean, you know.
And it just seems so obvious. I mean, that's why it's so
But
egregious.
I do want to state that you said that they just put that in the House bill. Now, that
What happens
doesn't
next,
mean
right.
that it was passed, right? That means that they're like, oh, let me just say, okay,
So-
we'll put this in this House
Yeah.
bill for y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
we tried, y'all.
Yeah, it's included in the House's version of the state budget. That doesn't mean it's going to stay in there when the budget is
It
actually
still
passed.
has to go through
Right.
how much.
But I do think even if they cut that money out at some point,
And they will. I'm going to mark it right now.
I think
I'm just saying.
I think it goes. I think it's very important to note that it was voted in by a House controlled by a supermajority.
You moved the ball in a big way, so to speak.
Right. That last year, that would not have happened.
Yeah.
So
but I think that's all because of the push that we've given them.
absolutely.
And I think it's the only reason why they put that there. And I think that's the reason why by the time it gets done, it's not going to be there. And all they're going to do is say, oh, well, guys, we tried. I'm sorry.
But I hope that they realize, and I hope they keep in mind, and they know it is an election year.
Yes.
Everybody in the House is up for re-election this year.
Yeah.
So there is that.
It's a re-election point, and it's also the fact that like people don't read beyond the headlines, and we've seen that with the McDowell water announcements. So you might remember like a couple weekends ago, Morrissey put out it was like $9.5 million for one project in Mingo and like 4 or 5 projects in McDowell. And first off, $9.5 million is like not even a project. But if you look at it, if you like look closely, it'll say like 1 to Davy, right? Well, Davy's system alone was going to cost $9.6 million. So just because you threw a couple pennies does not mean that you paid off the project.
Yeah, that's kind of like telling somebody whose electric's about to get cut off that needs 500. You're like, here's 100.
Yeah.
Good luck with
Good
that.
luck. Now they probably won't cut you off.
Pardon the very bad pun, but it's a drop in the bucket.
Literally.
I mean,
literally.
Yeah, but everybody went on social media and they're like, well, they gave you money, McDowell, but they didn't. Like, no project can move forward.
But
because it's not funded.
even the governor, when he made the announcement in the press conference, he was like, "Are you listening up, McDowell? McDowell, here comes your money."
You know,
Which
he's
goes
telling y'all to shut up.
Exactly.
It goes to my
Basically.
point. That's placating. Exactly.
And he did that like 2 days before we were going to have a rally in Charleston over the water. And so now I do think that Kermit and Mingo, I do think their project was fully funded, but that was the only project that was fully funded. So like good for Kermit. But everybody is online like, well, the governor gave you that. And then they turned it into, well, it's 95 million. No,
No, it's not.
People don't read, man. Look, oh my God. So if you try to send an email to anyone and have 2 separate questions in them, do not expect both of them to get answered. I'm just saying that in general. I'm not pointing any fingers to every single person I've ever sent an email to.
So
That's just okay. I'm done.
the organization that you two work under is the From Below.
Correct.
So can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of how that came to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So just it's not an organization; it's a movement.
Outstanding. Thank you for the clarification.
It's a movement. So it's from below, rising together for Coalfield Justice. So really, and I'll try to keep this brief, and Caitlyn again jump in. But the origin of From Below, it can be pinpointed to June of 2022, when every year, the West Virginia United Methodist Church has collectively, our conference has our annual conference on the campus of West Virginia Wesleyan in Buchanan every June. During that conference, a resolution was introduced and was being debated on the floor to support financially dig deep in their efforts in southern West Virginia to get clean water to households in southern West Virginia. I spoke to that resolution, spoke in favor of it on the floor, and during my speech on the floor, and this is with 900 people in Wesley Chapel at West Virginia Wesleyan, I referenced the fact that Keystone, town in McDowell County, had been at that point under a boil water advisory for 10 consecutive years, every day for 10 straight years. And there was an audible gasp that rose up from Wesley Chapel, from the 900 people collective gasp in Wesley Chapel.
Powerful.
And it was at that moment I was like,
Oh, yeah.
people in our own state do not know what is occurring here. They don't know what's happening here. So we started thinking about, how do we educate people in the state about the challenges that we face in the southern coalfields? And what we did was we determined that we were going to bring people from outside of the area in on an immersion, a cultural immersion for 2 days. And we came up with the name From Below, because God always begins any movement from below. It's the people at the bottom where movements begin. And also, by the way, McDowell geographically is literally at the bottom
of West
the
Virginia.
state, and we have been pushed down, our people, to the bottom. So it was an immersive coalfield experience, and we brought people in, we immersed them in our culture, our history, our challenges, and our hopes for the future. And it was so successful, and we had such good feedback on it, that we were trying to determine, okay, what's the next step? How do we continue to move this forward? And then, long story short, all of a sudden we're confronted with the water crisis. And it really, we were first made aware of it. I mean, we knew, obviously, like everybody else, that this area had water issues. But it really came to the forefront when the stuff with Indian Creek over here broke. And the awareness arose about that. And then we discovered that, my communities where I serve, their water impacted too. Because I'm in church one Sunday saying, hey, we got to help our neighbors in Wyoming County. We got to do something to help them. And I had one dear old lady who is no longer with us. She laughed from the back pew of the church.
She'd been around long enough to know, yeah.
She laughed in the back pew. She said, our water's been bad for decades.
What do you want me to do? Give them water from my tap?
Right.
Yeah, right. So
which water you want me to take down there?
So again, that's kind of what started the evolution, the transformation of From Below, from simply an immersion experience to a community organizing, a faith-based community organizing and advocacy group. And it started, it's not confined to water, but water obviously has been pushed to the forefront of the things that we deal with.
And let's clarify why we say movement and not organization, because people will send us like grant things to build water infrastructure.
Oh Lord!
We are two pastors.
You're like,
I know.
Could you send that to 1900 South Kanawha Boulevard in Charleston and tell them
we're just a couple of old pastors. We don't know anything about building water infrastructure.
Y'all make this look like you are a huge organization, and it's really just two of you.
Well,
that's a testament to the hard work and the dedication and the smarts, the brains that the two of you have to be able to do it like this.
Well, and we've got folks who do,
of course you do, yeah,
amazing work
Right.
behind the scenes.
Yeah. Marshall that kind of,
Shout out to Royce Lyden and Sarah Wilmuth, who also are part of our leadership team that do amazing work. And we're part of, a broader coalition of faith-based groups known as the West Virginia Faith Collective as well. So
and you having that backup
support.
is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I want to, when you talk about faith-based activities, my training around community organizing in Denver, Colorado with Metro Organizations for People was through faith-based organizations in schools. A lot of the Latino and Latina communities out there that was where we found them and where we were able to, work on issues with them. And so when Alan Johnson has told me this story. He's with Christians for the Mountains and Eight Rivers Council. And he said when he showed up on Cayford and Larry Gibson said, "Where have you been?" And he was like, "Well, traffic was heavy and we left a little late." And he's like, No. Where have the Christians been?
Yeah.
The whole time this has been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad to see a faith-based organization, because folks like me, and I've talked to openly about this, I wouldn't call myself a Christian, but I am a follower of Christ. Mm-hmm. And that's an important distinction for me in these moments. But I have messaged you, Caitlyn, and I'm sure I've said something to you, Brad, about pastors like you make me understand why I draw that distinction. Because I align with your values and your actions and what you're doing, because as I was taught, you walk the walk, right? You're in the communities and you're walking the walk, and you're not, saying we're here to save the day and, we're going to fix it. You're empowering people through their place of worship and through their gathering of community to take steps to help themselves and their community around very specific issues that are critical life issues, right? And so when you go and lobby and go and do this stuff in Charleston and bring folks to advocate for themselves and teach people, you said an advocacy an advocacy group. Is there an interfaith element to that? I'm curious to know if there are other faith groups that show up, or have you been approached by any other faith groups within the state in this kind of interfaith?
Or is just the Methodists the one awesome group of religious leaders in the state?
Thank you. That was kind of my point. Yeah. Like, who else is
Because
showing
at this
up?
point right now, Methodist is where I'm leaning. I grew up Pentecostal.
Yeah, I would say there are different Christian denominations that I can name that have either supported us in our water distributions, or that are on the up in Charleston fighting against data centers and things, right? There's a woman and Brad, you can correct me on this. I think she lives in Logan, works in Mingo, Susan Perry. Mm-hmm. She's a Presbyterian, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Presbyterian pastor. And she's up at Charleston, joining for rallies, speaking out against data centers. There's some folks out there doing stuff. I think it just doesn't often, for good purposes. I mean, there are people that they don't want the spotlight, and they they're still there. They're still showing up.
Or they don't have the PR skills that you all have.
Yeah, I think.
And who else showed up besides the Christians? I mean, are there other groups?
Yeah, I mean, so I referenced earlier that we were part of a group called the Faith Collective, the West Virginia Faith Collective. From Below is a founding partner of the West Virginia Faith Collective, and there are two other founding partners, members of the group, one being Justice and Jubilee, the other being the West Virginia Faith Leaders Network, which is an interfaith group. It's not only folks of different Christian faith traditions, but different faith traditions overall. We work with Muslim groups and Jewish groups. There are a couple of rabbis that we work closely with. So there.
I like that.
So it is.
Pagans. Yeah, there's pagans, all sorts of folks.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome, because look, religion is religion. That's just what what rituals do you perform? Right. Well, and what words do you use to call God?
And here's the thing.
My thing.
And here's the thing too. I mean, it takes all of us.
Yes.
We
all don't have water.
It takes all of us to make change. It takes all of us to ensure that our neighbors have what they need to get by, have what they need to survive. And it's the same way down here in Southern West Virginia. It takes all of us coming together.
And all the skills, the different skills. I mean, everybody has to have their own part, because everybody has their own skill that they're good at. Some people are good at the social media and the marketing and the getting the word out. Some people Some people are good at, getting contacts and talking to people and seeing who needs what and organizing and putting it all together. And some people are like, I got a truck, I'll just go ahead and do all this. It's a well-oiled machine, and everybody has their part. And to think that you don't like the way someone is doing something because they're not doing exactly what you're doing. I mean, we need diversity in all things in life, and that's one little pet peeve that I have been seeing is like, where have y'all been? And I understand the whole religion thing, like, where's the churches been? Mm-hmm. And people are like, where have you been? I don't know. In 2022, I was battling cancer.
Right.
I mean,
my God. Oh my God. I can't with the.
I love you, Caitlyn. I've watched her face the whole time I was talking.
So where have you been? I don't know. I was in middle school. I was in middle school in Taylor County. I'm
sorry. I was battling an opiate addiction. God.
And you're right. It takes all of us with our different skill sets, our different gifts, our different talents, all coming together. And when you are in a fight for survival, which we are, the Central Appalachia, not just Southern West Virginia, Central Appalachia more broadly. We are facing an existential crisis, and it's not just water. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's an abundance of things, but we can't afford to be divided.
Exactly.
We have to be united together as family, because we're all family, as neighbors, because we're all neighbors, fighting towards the same, or moving rather towards the same goal, and that is the goal of creating a better world here in our communities. And that's what we do. We are. It is my opinion, informed by my faith, that there is God intends for the world to be a particular way. And when I look around at our communities, that ain't it. Mm-hmm. So we as people of faith in particular, we are called to do something about it, and we have to do something about it. And that involves, and I don't care if you are a person, I don't care what your faith is. I don't care if you are a person of no faith. Mm-hmm. It takes all of us, because we're all being affected.
Are you a person of humanity?
A person of humanity. Right.
It doesn't have to be faith. We're a person of humanity.
And sometimes
I see a person that is thirsty and needs water.
Yes.
I will give you water. And to add to you saying we all need to come together and we're all family, we all don't like our family or get along with everybody in our family. You don't have to. Like, I don't have to get along with every single person at my job. But our job has one goal, and that's to do this thing. Right. And I mean, we'll go fight it out back later if we need to, but we got to take care of what we got to take care of right now, and we'll deal with our shit later.
When it snows a foot, though, you'll be out there helping each other shovel your cars out of the...
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's what is really great about this area, and I would say generally the mountains, Appalachia, but the mountain areas, we have to rely on our neighbors. It takes a certain grit to live here. We've talked about it's an act of resistance actually to live here, right? And you barter for supplies, you barter for tractor work, you barter for things, and we've always relied on that. And there's always been that underlying understanding that I may not like your politics, but by God, you need a ride to town? Come on.
All right.
Get in the car.
Get in the truck.
My mom would take a man who did not have a car and put him in her car and drive him to the polls every election day because he should vote. And they canceled each other's vote out. That's how that worked. And people would tell her, you're crazy. You're crazy for taking that man down there to vote. And she's like, what do you mean? Everybody should go vote, And if you need a ride, I'll give you a ride.
Don't suppress votes.
So I think, who said that? And where is she today?
I don't know. This lady. I don't know either. There's this lady here.
Is she under your table, Kayla?
She keeps talking shit.
So I want to pivot a little bit because I want to talk about the specific state work being done, and then I want to talk about the national piece that just came out on 60 Minutes. I want to address the state stuff first because I don't want to forget it. there are specific things happening at the state level with legislation, or something's happening that we want to talk about specifically here. The fallout from it, and I remember how awful it was, and I remember how mean people were.
Yep.
And when I really listened to that song, I was like,
What are you talking about?
the Dixie Chicks song, I'm Not Ready to Make Noise.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard, I'd never listened to it all the way through until like just a couple weeks ago. And I also just want to acknowledge that I'm perimenopausal, and I really appreciate that our generation is talking about this stage in our life, because it's insane. And saying I'm in my emotions lately is like the understatement of the century, like literally weeping over random things. But I also feel like there's a collective kind of mourning happening right now, right?
Yeah.
I feel
There
like there's
is.
a collective breakdown. There's a collective kind of
Psychosis.
like as a collective, I feel like we know that things have to change or we won't survive.
Yeah.
And change is the most uncomfortable place to be, right? And changing and evolving and transitioning and growing, I've said this before, to the seed, it looks like total and complete destruction, right? But the plant is what the result is, and ultimately that's the goal. So I feel like you two help me pivot back. When I hear you talk about your community and what we need to do, there's a future there. There is a future there. It's to be built. It's to
Yes.
be imagined. It's to be created, right?
And the mindset is what is very, very much important.
Yes.
I get these comments all the time of people saying, it ain't going to do no good. It's been like this. It stays like this. It's been like this for years. We know. We're not saying that it hasn't. But my mom always said, can't, never, could.
Can't, never, could. Speaking of can't, never, could, let's talk about that 60 Minutes piece. Because
One thing I wanted to know is, what did they not air that you guys want to make sure? Because
was there anything that you wanted to see put out there that you
what do you feel like
didn't
they
see?
cut?
That's an interesting question. It's the first time I've been asked that.
Really? Because
Yeah.
that's the first question
Yeah.
I want to know.
Well, you're a producer. That's what
Oh, I guess that's probably it. Wow.
I would probably say that I would have personally liked to have seen a little more on the hope side of things.
Yeah.
Just a hope for the future. I mean, it's very important that everything that was talked about was talked
Absolutely.
about and brought. And,
Well, it's
and-
kind of like you can't keep complaining and not bring a solution.
Right, and I'm grateful for the way that the story was handled. That they allowed the people themselves, local people, to tell the story. They did not tell the story for us. They allowed us to tell the story, and we had that conversation when they first reached out to me. I'm like, we have to be careful about how we go about, or rather you have to be careful about how you go about telling the story, and it's got to be the story from us, not your story about us.
They really wanted to push the food stamps.
Well, that was
Timely, right?
That was the whole intent of
That was where their idea came
that's
from.
what brought them to McDowell County,
Yeah.
because it was during the government shutdown.
Right.
And McDowell County obviously is the birthplace of the modern food stamp program.
Yeah, we know.
So-
Thank you for always bringing that up, CBS.
So that is the origin, the genesis of why they
Yeah.
wanted to come.
Well, I wanted
So-
to really point that out because from comments I've seen online, it's like, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do
Sure.
that? And I'm like, well, I think y'all need to really understand is that they really wanted to talk about food stamps. And the two of y'all pushed them, and then the community pushed them to talk about what the real issue is, which is the water. And I think that needs to be commended, and I wanted to say that out loud to both of you.
I appreciate that. And I would say too, I saw, I think it might have been out elsewhere, but I know Black by God had published it. It was a response to 60 Minutes from Dr. Bill Turner to put out, Black voices should have been highlighted more. And I think that's true.
Absolutely.
Oh, I wasn't talking about that.
that's
in addition, I think, that's true.
for sure.
It's an absolutely fair critique.
Because
absolutely
that was a totally fair critique.
Particularly in light of the fact of how diverse McDowell County is.
It's the most diverse county I work in.
Yes.
Hands down.
So, I think that was a totally fair critique. I think also it would have been nice to put in there, like Gary is a predominantly Black community, and also, North Fork and Keystone had both been on boil water advisories for ages, and that was absolutely environmental racism. I think that's fair.
Yeah. I feel like they could have taken a lot of the grocery store stuff and all of that out of there and put more emphasis into the actual community and what's going on. And definitely the Black voices would have been helpful. I was talking more like people were like, why aren't they talking about this place? And why aren't they talking about this over here? And why aren't they talking? I'm like, one, it's like, you got a short segment. You got to pick and choose what you put in.
They had 13 minutes.
Which is a long segment, news-wise.
That is a long segment. But when you're a producer and you have probably 8 hours of footage, you have to, I am the condensing queen. Tom will come to me and be like, I got 10 minutes and I need it down to 4. And I'm like, I can cut. I love cutting fat. But you have to know what to cut in order to make the story say what you needed to say and make sure everybody's voice is heard properly.
God love them. I know for a fact they were at Linda McKinney's at Five Lobes for like 5.5 hours.
Well, I mean, in fairness, it's Linda, and you are not going to spend any less time with Linda.
That's right.
Right.
And
you made the trip, right?
I mean, Linda is Linda is my parishioner, by the way, and she loves to talk, and she is a fantastic human being.
Yeah, so
and she's just a joy to be around.
You got to think these people filmed 5 hours just at Five Loaves and Two Fishes, and they had a 13-minute segment where they had to make sure they got Brad in, and there were people that they talked to that didn't make it in the cut. And that's one thing I wanted to ask is, what is it that they cut? Who did they cut that should have really made it in? And is there a story that we think should be told that they didn't?
And
I'm not, Caitlyn, I'm not for sure who all they talked to that didn't make it in the story.
Right.
But I'm fairly certain they did talk to Roberto Diaz and Sarah Diaz at Latin Appalachian, and they didn't. If they did, I know they had lunch there the day that they interviewed me and the day that they interviewed Linda. And I'm fairly certain that they talked to him on camera. I'd have to double check with him. But if they did, I wish that he would have made it in, because and again, that gets back to highlighting hope in the county, because Latin Appalachian and now the Nehemiah Project, which is the nonprofit wing of Latin Appalachian that has just started up, they are what gives me hope.
It's innovation in a way that, let's unpack that program a little bit and how the open table system works. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the Nehemiah Project, now there's a lot of stuff that is coming that is in development and in discussion.
First, before we get to that, I want people to know who don't know who Latin Appalachia is.
Yes.
During the floods last year in February in Welch, this man pretty much with his restaurant, who had damage itself, kept that town alive for however long. Y'all were we couldn't get in or out. I think I messaged you and said, I'll walk across the mountain and bring you something if I need to.
Yeah, you did. Now, do you all know the story about how the restaurant was able to stay open in the immediate days after the flood?
No, I don't know that whole story, and I want to get. I would love to get with him.
Yeah.
Go over there and eat and
so
you gotta
let
go
people
eat.
know how wonderful this food
eat.
is, and get his story out there to everybody.
So the night that the flood occurred, last February 15th, this restaurant is on McDowell Street, which is the main street in Welch, downtown Welch. McDowell Street was absolutely ravaged. Okay, his restaurant was the only storefront on McDowell Street that wasn't rendered inoperable during the flood. And this is how it happened. There was a guy in downtown that had just all kinds of used tires that was stacked up at his place. Okay, and if you were in Welch right after the flood, his tires were all over the place. They were scattered everywhere. Well,
God bless the hoarded tires, right?
So a couple of those tires during when the water rose and carried them off, a couple of them wedged into the doorway of Latin Appalachian and dammed up the water.
Oh my God!
And now other parts of the building got damaged.
The basement filled up with mud. I think Caitlin's the one that told me that was why he couldn't open up immediately.
And they are still trying to repair that. But the restaurant itself, where the food is cooked and where people eat, did not get damaged.
I'm sorry, that sounds like divine intervention.
It's exactly what it was. God. And I told him that 2 days after the flood, when I was sitting in there with the Red Cross people and feeding emergency food to people. That's what I told him. I was like, this is God. What we see around us is the kingdom of God.
Absolutely.
And by the way, and I think it was 6 weeks, maybe even a shorter time span than that, from February 15th through March, they served over 50,000 meals to all corners of the county. Every corner of the county, they served 50. I think the total was like 50,400 and some meals.
Wow.
That were served.
Wow.
And I mean, he cooked so much.
He cooks big batches of things too. I mean, that's the great thing about his recipes is they can be made in giant batches and they are delicious.
He cooked so much in those first few days that the bottoms of his pots literally blew out.
Oh, bless him.
And people came and donated other cookware to him. I mean, it's just it's an amazing story, and it's a story
is an amazing story.
Thank you for sharing that.
It needs to be told. It's a story that needs to be told.
I want to talk to him.
We need to talk to him. You know,
we were going to go there in April,
exactly.
like we had planned.
That was part of our trip itinerary when we did our toxic tour with folks from all over the state, because I'm someone who's traveled to Texas and Colorado, right? And I've lived in those places, and so good Mexican and Latino food for me is like hard to find around here. And when I first met Robert in his restaurant, I walked in with my friend and I looked at the menu and it had birria ramen and birria tacos on it. And I took the menu she was holding and I put it down and I said, we'll have one of each of those. And he looked at me, he said, what's your favorite Mexican restaurant? Where's your favorite Mexican restaurant to eat? And I said, Texas or Colorado. And he said, would you like some pickled cactus? And it wasn't part of the regular menu yet. It was something that he was still kind of trying out. And I was like, And I told people for weeks, I was like, I had pickled cactus in Welch.
Right. Exactly.
I had pickled cactus in Welch. You need to go check this out. And then as we ate that food that day, my friend that was with me, Penny, she's like, Every bite she went, And she said, that is the most delicious $10 meal I've ever eaten in my entire life. And I said, it is Welch.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's right here. And so we were pumping them up. We were going to bring these students here. We were going to give them about 40, patrons that day down there on tour. Then the flood happened in February. And Lindsay and I pulled that part of the trip. We stopped in Itman and didn't do the full loop through. And I said, because there's a term that's used around here that's poverty porn.
Yeah.
Well, there's also natural disaster porn, where people come in with cameras and, take pictures of the awful stuff that happened and put cameras in the faces of people who've just literally lost everything, and they expect them to perform and to say things and to be profound, and it felt wrong. It was like we were not going to drive through Welch, which was devastated. I work in the courthouse down there regularly, and it took buildings down. I mean, one of the big old buildings there right in downtown, which I'm not going to say it's not, it seems kind of wide open now. It's I think that's an improvement in Welch in some ways.
You can see the river.
You can see the river from the courthouse, yeah. And so, but I think I wanted to be sensitive to that because I had to go there for work, and my mind was blown when I went down through there, because I worked post-Katrina New Orleans. You know, it's not something I've talked about largely here on the podcast. We might have to do a podcast about that, but I saw destruction on a scale that's incomprehensible in any way. I've never seen anything like that until I drove down there. And I think I don't know if I told anybody here, but I came up to Lindsay's one night and came in from Tazewell. So I drove over the mountain and through Gary, literally a week after the flood or 2 weeks after the flood, when nothing had been cleaned up. I mean, it was just still basically the road was open and you still had one lane in some places, right? And it was reminiscent of places in post-Katrina New Orleans that were just completely devastated.
So Caitlyn and I, this was in March. So this was less than a month after the flood. Caitlyn and I actually took some food from Latin Appalachian over to the southern end of the county to make a delivery in Berwyn and in Racelle. And when we saw, was it Racelle Bottom?
Bartley Bottom.
Bartley, yes, Bartley Bottom. I had never seen anything like that. No. And this was like almost a month out.
Was that when you said that nobody had come to them?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It looked like, and I know it sounds cliche, I know it sounds hyperbolic to say, but it looked like a bomb had been dropped in Bartley Bottom, and we're talking about a month later, because
it was where kind of the debris gathered that washed out of everywhere, and all they did was cut a road through it, right? And so it was really awful.
It was really, I mean, my stomach dropped when we drove.
And people have been living like that.
Yeah. Roads were falling in.
Debris. I kept getting flat tires. Remember, I was driving around after the floods and where stuff had come and they were hauling it out, right? And they would pile stuff up on these trucks. I had a bone pierce my tire.
Oh, gosh.
The guy pulled it out. He's like, I think it's a piece of plastic. And he pulled it out and it was a bone. And that was up here in Pineville that night. Tom, I had to call him after I left. Tom came up and helped me change my tire. But like,
you got like 6 flat tires this year.
Well, because of this flood debris in these counties where I drive, like I had to upgrade my tires because the reality is there's debris everywhere down there. Like there are places where they're moving rocks. Coming into Welch on 52, there was 3 feet of sediment in the road that was in piles for months and months. You know, like they just made a way through and then had to clean it up. But on the scale and the magnitude of the damage was exponentially more than what had been seen before. And I think the road project, we all admit that, you know, we've got this new road project coming through in places, the extensive continued mountaintop removal damage that has removed more acreage, more trees, more, you know, surface of the ground and topsoil. And then again, there's no real drive to get in there and fix this infrastructure. We talk about the bridge in Gary. Do we have any updates on the bridge in Gary?
We do. I don't know how much I can talk about it.
Well,
but
whatever you feel comfortable.
But there is some movement and a possibility. It's looking like a real possibility that there's going to be a replacement.
Outstanding.
That is awesome.
The initial response was to build an alternative road into kind of the backside.
And it was built. It
they
exists.
Built that. Okay. It was kind of.
It exists.
Kind of shady.
Dangerous.
Wasn't it? Very
dangerous.
Sketchy?
It's a little. I haven't been on it, but it looks a little bit, especially in bad weather. I don't know if I would want to travel that, but it does look like that the bridge may possibly, a new bridge may possibly be constructed.
Well, I will continue to pray for that and put energy into that because I feel like
they deserve it.
That's one of those.
For sure.
It's so egregious to me as someone who has watched companies and corporations in the name of the public good take thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of land in this state. Yep. And then to hear the governor say that belongs to somebody else, we can't do anything about it for a bridge in McDowell County is absurd.
Yeah.
Hey, Caitlyn, Tell me what the governor said to you the other day. Didn't you ask him to bring some water trailers?
And let me quickly interject before
Yeah.
Caitlyn answers that question, because it gets back to the environmental racism that Caitlyn brought up earlier. You know, the neighborhood
Yes.
that bridge leads to,
Yep.
all black families.
Yes.
So that needs to be
I
pointed
really
out
appreciate
as
you
well.
pointing that out, that there was
So,
no hustle
yeah.
to get down there and fix anything, and that's
I did see that JD with Creepalachia is working to on a fundraiser. Is that what you're referring to?
He is involved in there are a bunch of different pieces moving
good.
to get something done with that.
That's
and again,
great.
I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about it, so I won't
We'll just-
I won't name names, but
Yeah.
but JD is involved. Yes,
We will just say things are moving along.
things are
and
moving along. And
There
I'm
there
sorry,
are
go
great
ahead.
people out there
Yes.
that do care about the community, and
Yeah.
I think we are starting to come together. The like-minded people are starting to form and come together
Through social media.
and we're snowballing.
Yep.
And
we're
I
all-
didn't know you guys. I met you through somebody sent
Right.
me a link about the water buffalo. I was like, "Hey girl, hey, I need one of those. How do I do that?" And you're like, "Hey girl, hey, you're my friend."
Again, we're all we got.
Exactly.
And I know, Linda McKinney said
Yes.
it on the 60 Minutes interview, and it bears repeating constantly. Nobody is coming to save
Nobody's
us.
showing
They're
up.
not.
Nobody is going to save us but us.
Exactly. I've been trying to tell people that for so long and be like, do you really think that this billionaire is going to save us? Because I highly doubt that.
You are the one you're waiting for, so
Yeah.
tell us about your interaction with Mr.
Yes, because
speaking of billionaires
I just-
who are
Look,
going
man.
to supposedly save us.
Listen, I saw this on social media. I just couldn't stop staring at it because all I could,
What is it?
yes,
Let's
just,
ask that.
oh my God, I love it.
well here so a couple thoughts with it. So first off, I say, with the flood too, Oceana and Mingo, Oceana and Wyoming and then Mingo County and other areas,
Yes.
they were hit too, and often don't get talked about. So I did want to kind of
Yes.
mention them too.
Thank you.
So Morrissey,
Dude's a hero. Yeah.
yeah, we were up at the Capitol. We were tabling, and he just happened to stop by. There was almost no one there yet, because it was really early for Environmental Day, and he just happened to come by, and I hear my friend Sarah go, "Oh." No words. And I see him, and I'm just like, "Morning." And he comes over, and he's doing the whole handshake, and I didn't realize it until later, but we had a sign on the table that had a picture of him that said, "Write your letter to the governor," and it was a little where you could fill out postcards to mail to him. So I think he saw his face on our table.
And came to check it out and see what it
Check
said.
it out because his eyes were directed right there. So I
Great
didn't realize
marketing.
later. And he came up, and he's, "Oh, we're trying and we're doing all that, the typical, like, we're getting stuff done, and I just, like, I'm not going to sit here and just smile at him. Like, because that's what he's used to. I sit there, people sit there and we're going to smile at him and say, "Yeah, you're doing good." I was like, "No." I said, "We need water."
That's just why we become
I'm not
friends.
going to sit here and smile at you. We need water stewards. And he came up, and he just goes, "Where?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" now I'm on the hot seat, because could I name like dozens of communities that need them?
Sure. However, how do you be strategic and thoughtful about this? Yeah.
Right, like, I mean, I could have named dozens of communities that need them, but like, I mean, my first two thoughts was like Gary and Indian Creek, right? So I tell him that, and he goes, "Oh, well, we'll see, and we can't always get 100% of what we want." And
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
that was the one for me, because here's the thing too, and I won't go on the weeds with statistics because I would
I'm
love
sorry
to, but-
that we would like clean water.
I would love to go on the lead.
And we would be here for the rest of the day. So
we would be
yes.
here for the rest of the day. So 2024, 2.5% of the funds go to the Coalfield. 2025, 4.6% of the funds.
Be like, Governor, we can't even get 5%, let alone 100%.
5%. So like, don't come at me with like, we can't get 100% of what we want.
Could you give us 50?
Yeah,
50. I'll barter.
Here's the thing with that, right? Not even a couple days later, he's in committee meetings around the Hope Scholarship, and he said something at a recent press conference about, we need like 100% of the Hope Scholarship funded, and this is a principle I will fight for. And I'm like, oh, so he can't get 100% of what he wants, but people don't have clean water.
Right.
I'm taking note of that because I got some friends and we're going to be talking about the Hope Scholarship.
Yeah. Which, by the way, coincidentally, the Senate, we already talked about the House version of the budget. The Senate version of the budget includes $300 million of funding for the Hope Scholarship. We asked, and the legislation...
I'm sorry, could you say that number again?
$300 million for the Hope Scholarship. Now, and the piece that would offset the governor's proposed 10% budget or a 10% tax cut is $250 million, which, by the way, is exactly the amount that we asked for water infrastructure funding, emergency funding in the Coalfields.
Which you're not going to be able to teach any kids if they can't drink clean water.
Sick kids can't learn, Mr. Morrissey.
Which we are, we have, there are two pieces of legislation currently stuck in committee in the House that would potentially bring emergency funding for water infrastructure to Southern West Virginia. It's unless they get on the floor by Monday, they are dead.
Drop dead day.
Because Wednesday is crossover day. Wednesday is the deadline for all bills to get out of their house of origin, or their chamber of origin. So in effect, if a bill hasn't made the floor by Monday to have the 3 days of reading, they're dead. Neither of those bills have gotten onto the floor as of yet. Now, we'll say this, though. Apparently, and I'm still not clear on where the ask is, or where the how the ask is being made, I should say. But Senator Mark Maynard has asked on the Senate side for $76 million for this district, which would be it would not include Wyoming, and that's the sad fact about it. But it would be Mingo, McDowell, Mercer, and part of Wayne. But he's asked for $76 million for water infrastructure for that sliver of his district,
which would be a huge investment in a lot of those places.
It would be a huge investment, but it leaves Wyoming out.
Yes.
It leaves everybody else in the southern Coalfields out.
Raleigh, Lincoln, Boone.
Right. So,
Yep.
And I'm not sure because I know he introduced a water-related bill, but it's not included in that. So I'm assuming that it's an amendment that he's offering up for the Senate version of the budget.
Well,
So yeah, that's where we are with that.
So basically, you've got 55-25, which is Vance's, which would, you could get $10 million for all the 9 Coalfield counties plus 4 extra southern Coalfield counties.
Well, not Coalfield counties.
Southern West Virginia counties, sorry. And so you'd have 13 counties for that, but it's $10 million. And they also found out you can't even allocate funding that way anyway, so it's like no money. And basically what it would do...
Oh gosh, guys, we tried. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. It would find failing systems to pay off other failing systems. So let's say Gary doesn't meet water quality standards. They're going to fine Gary $10,000 to pay off Raynell's water infrastructure problem.
Well, and I should say that was the original language in the bill. if it makes it to the floor, we're reasonably certain that language would have been corrected.
I'm sorry. The two women right here just looked at each other, and I know. What was your thought?
Tell me you don't give two shits about repairing water infrastructure in West Virginia without telling me you don't give two shits about repairing water infrastructure in southern West Virginia. Yep. This shell game, this BS from this pot to this pot, oh, we can't do it, then it's not going to make it, is insulting.
It's so bad.
It's insulting, and it is killing us.
Yes,
people
and that's the
dying.
That's the thing. This it's not like we're asking for scholarships to go to private school. We're asking to live. We're asking to live. This is a life and death matter.
I know.
They
don't. They must think that we need to teach people before they can drink water.
It's insulting. It's like they really have been kicking this can and playing this game for so long that it's all they know.
Yeah,
they don't even care if we die.
1,000%. They would be better off if we weren't here.
Yeah,
right?
That's actually the goal.
And now, and I'm getting ready to piss y'all off a little bit more. So.
Gee, Brad.
So
I'm having a Lindsay Reiser moment at the moment.
I could tell. I love it.
In addition to 5525 that Caitlyn just outlined for us, there is also 5585, which was a bill introduced by Delegate Hamilton of Monongalia County, who she represents Monongalia County, but she grew up in McDowell, okay? And she still has family in McDowell. Essentially, what 5585 would do is allow for rainy day funds to be used for a public health emergency.
Well, because it sounds
it would
rainy day.
Right. It would allow for,
and it's a public health emergency.
Yes, it would allow. Oh, wait, I'm going to get to that in just a minute. So it would allow for the state, for the legislature to allocate money from the rainy day fund for public health emergencies, in particular, the public health emergency here in the southern Coalfields with water infrastructure. Okay. Delegate Hamilton introduced that a couple of weeks ago. It was referred to the House Committee on Energy and Public Works. Has yet to make the agenda. Not only has it not moved out of committee to the floor, but it hasn't even been placed on the agenda yet for the House or for that committee. And again, if it doesn't get to the floor by Monday, it's dead. Oh, and by the way, speaking of it's a public health emergency, the state's Secretary of Health said on social media last night that the water quality in southern West Virginia poses no public health risk.
So, and I want, okay. As you said,
I haven't really been on social media much since last night, so I'm glad you told me about that, Brad.
I told you I was going to piss y'all off more.
God bless it.
There's some detail that we'll just only add to it. So, like...
All right, Caitlyn.
Basically, Morrissey's wife posted something that was honestly, I think, completely unrelated. I don't even remember what the purpose of the picture was. But then we were made aware that the Secretary of Health for the state commented back in response to a woman's comment. A comment that's confusing.
I know what you meant, but go ahead.
A woman commented on Morrissey's wife's post, right? And she said, "What about water in McDowell County?" The health secretary responds to that comment and says, well, there's no health emergency. There's no risk. You can keep traveling. There's no public health risk.
The woman's comment was in reference to, what about the water in McDowell County in terms of people coming here? Tourism.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, because we're so worried about the other people, and we're not worried about the people that live here every day.
Yes.
Like
and
y'all
so
even got
he
my
said-
kid making noises out there, y'all.
So he said that yeah, they should keep traveling down here to go and keep up the tourist industry, essentially.
Because the water poses no public health risk.
Yes. So Brad comments in response to that, and I shared a picture of water in Gary where a woman had just had surgery, and I won't go into details, but let's just say her surgery was related to her water. And she will have to return back from surgery to drive 40 minutes to the nearest waterfall, collect water, bring it back and boil it so she can bathe to recover from her surgery. And so I posted her story with her picture, and we both got blocked.
From the governor's wife's
No,
Facebook.
We were blocked by the Secretary of Health.
Oh,
Yeah.
because God forbid you raise public health issues with the Secretary of Health. I'm so irate right now.
So you were effectively censored by the Secretary of Health of West Virginia for raising an alarm
On health.
about a public health issue that people are dying over, struggling with, and not able to recover from a surgery that was involved with the water situation that they have.
And when you have surgery, you really not supposed to be carrying over
Right.
a gallon jug.
So in response to that, I have formally invited the Secretary to come down here. I would be more than happy to facilitate
His education about the public health crisis.
I would be
Find him a bathtub.
I would be more than happy to coordinate him coming to visit impacted communities, speaking to impacted residents, doing water testing, seeing for himself what we're living with and what we're dealing with here. And again, I hope he takes me up
What's
on
his
it.
name again?
Arvin Singh.
Arvin.
Yes,
Singh.
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 Dr. Arvin Singh is the state's secretary.
We're gonna look him
We'll
up.
get him a glass of that
Yeah.
Gary tap water and see how good he does with it.
His profile, like subheading or whatever you would call it, also says he's like Maha and all of that, which I just also find fascinating because like you want to talk about wellness, but like people are bathing in feces. Or like people have to crack a window because the fumes burn them. You know, like I can't. And another thing too that's directly related to him is, you know, thinking about, you know, you, Lindsay, I know your mom had some issues with water recently, right?
Yeah. Well, we did. We're on the same water. We have City of Welch.
Right.
And we woke up to our water was just yellow for a day. And it was a couple days. And the neighbor called the water company and they said, oh, well, we had to, I don't know, backwash or do something with the whatever. And I'm like, is there a water advisory?
Fire hydrants.
And she was like, oh, no, it's fine.
Yep.
So it's cool that I can drink this yellow water. Yeah, you're good.
Yep.
I don't believe you. So I'm not going to take your word for it, which I don't drink my water anyway. I get water from, we have one of them 5-gallon jugs and we just use a dispenser to drink or cook with. I wash my dishes in my water and, you know, clothes, and we bathe in it. And to say that we are the lucky ones, because, you know, I can at least bathe and wash my clothes in it. And if I were to have surgery, I don't have to go and get water from the mountain to just bathe in. And that's to say I am a lucky one because I only have to get drinking water, right? That's the reality of West Virginia, that you have people that, some can't even bathe in their water, some just don't drink it. Very, very, very few people left that can actually drink their tap water and feel comfortable about it. And to say that is not a health crisis infuriates the holy shit out of me. And it's amazing to me when we can sit here and say that they act like the water is life is just some sort of saying that we like to say to ourselves just to hear ourselves chant or some bullshit. Because what the fuck, y'all? Like,
Yep.
really, I don't even know. I can ramble on mad for hours about this. So I'll just stop. I'll just stop right there because
I want to wrap this up because, first of all, I'm like, my blood pressure's through the roof right now, but I want to end on a hopeful note.
What more can you say? I mean, the disconnect between people that don't have to deal with this water issue every day of their lives and the people that do is so large.
even the regular
it's
people.
Staggering. Right. Even, and I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said, well, those folks on well water, they've got filtration. They're all right. And the tap water's been filtered. That's all right. And
Nothing is all right.
And I said, I'll respectfully I'll agree to disagree, because that is not at all right.
We all know these filters are not working. Do you guys have any of your parishioners that are on well water or even city water that use filtration, and the filtration really does not work?
What it does is now it may help.
It overwhelms the filtration system at some point, though, right?
But just to give you anecdotal evidence of as an answer to your question, there's a gentleman who lives in the Lackey community or Indian, or not Indian Creek, Little Creek, in far eastern McDowell County, very near the Virginia line. One of my impacted communities where you have folks all on well water. He bought several years ago, like one of those $5,000 filtration systems like that are supposed to be incredible and state of the art. And I'm sure, and he probably would tell you that it helped with his water quality. But the problem is, 5 years later, it was chewed up.
Yeah,
it was destroyed, and he had to build buy another one.
Yeah, they go quick.
Yes.
Well, that's what's also done. The infrastructure is damaged for the same reasons. This is corrosive material that is going through these things. So any new thing you put in there is going to eventually be damaged, and that's why longer term solutions need to be, looked at, or we're just going to keep replacing. And I think now that you're saying that, that might be part of the equation, right? When they sit behind those doors and they say, well, if we replace the water system, it's just going to be destroyed in 6 years to 10 years. So why would we make that investment given what's going to be flowing through it, right? Which is a big problem.
Which means they would have to address the fact.
The cause.
That
so we've come full circle in this moment
and
back to the cause.
And that is exactly why they don't want to address it, because they know exactly where it would lead to. And so,
but on a hopeful note, so I'm calmed down a little bit.
You got some? You got something for me?
I do.
Okay, cool.
I do, because when I watched the 60 Minutes piece, about halfway through it, I started crying. And what made me emotional in that moment was...
It wasn't her perimenopause.
Well, it certainly had...
I'm sorry.
Probably had something to do with it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It was the first time since Larry Gibson had been in the national news scene that someone had been saying those things in that platform, right? Like, we've had our dips in and out of media, but I remember, Larry got on some big news pieces in 2020 and had, magazines and Newsweek and some high profile media pieces done. And as I was hearing folks tell their story down there, I became very emotional, because it felt like we've gained that ground again, and we were there for a minute, and then we lost Larry, and then our own water crisis in Charleston, and blah, 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 blah. And it just, we haven't really had that presence at that level telling the people's story. So to piggyback on the thank you, that's kind of my thank you, is that it's the first time, it's not dissimilar to Bernie talking about the pipelines, right? When Bernie mentioned, when Senator Manchin took the pipeline fight to the tippy top to cheat, to get him through. And Bernie was talking about it. It's like, for the folks on the ground who do this work every day, to see those stories on a national platform told properly, or told at least, again, they were incomplete because the African American community, the diversity of the community, their voices weren't represented at all. But I felt like we've gained some ground back, and it felt empowering, so that's my gratitude, and thank you for that.
And I think what you're speaking to is something that we have really tried to focus on over the last couple of years, and that is recapturing our narrative.
Yes. Yeah. Telling our own stories.
But because for generations, our story has been hijacked and has been told for us.
Yes.
And joked about and made fun of and lied on.
So now the people's story, the people's narrative is being rediscovered, recaptured, rewritten, and retold in a proper fashion. And that's where my hope.
Yes.
My hope is in the people of this place.
Yes.
Because there is no greater, you will not find any greater human beings, any greater people anywhere on the face of the earth. And if we finally collectively, when that time comes, and it's going to come, I don't know when, I may not live to see it, but it's going to come. But once we collectively rediscover who it is we really are, that's when things change. And that's when the people make the change. So that is my hope. It's in the people.
I'm telling you what, Pastor Brad and Pastor Caitlyn, I don't know, is that what they call you, Pastor Brad and Pastor Caitlyn? You all.
They call me a lot.
Caitlyn, you got to come here sometime.
Y'all are so important to us and to this whole state, and I'm so grateful for you. And I agree that we just have to keep loving each other and working through the tough spots and having each other's back at the end of the day. And we have to call out the people who don't care and the people who really aren't here for us, and we have to be bold. So thank you for saying, no, I'm not going to just smile and nod.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just placate and play along anymore. Our lives depend on it. So thank you so much for the work that you do and for being here with us today. First of all, it was a great conversation and a lot of fun.
I know.
And we really covered some policy points. I felt like we've done more here than I've seen on the news as far as what's happening up in Charleston on the water issues and stuff. So hopefully
we're an entertainment channel, though. We are not.
Absolutely. But we are going to leverage and maximize the exposure from 60 Minutes to push this out further.
And we're putting pressure, and that's the whole thing is, okay, you're on 60 Minutes. All right, we're going to keep this momentum going, and we're going to continue to put pressure. And whatever those bills are that they ain't even letting off their desk yet,
that's mistake.
Okay. That's okay.
Heard.
We're taking note.
Heard.
Yeah. We're taking note. We're recording. We're going to remember. And we will be able to vote in November. I know I'm pretty sure they don't think that we're going to be able to vote in November or
and there's
something.
A whole slate of people running for office. I think it's really, people are like, why? Well, you get what you keep voting for. Well, now we have a whole bunch of people running for office, so maybe we'll have a big turnover in the House and the Senate, and we'll see, okay, let's vote for something different. We want to go in a different direction.
I think anytime we get anybody say, well, you get what you vote for, be like, oh, well, thank you for stepping up and applying to run for office. What you planning on running for? What you gonna do?
Or would you mind typing a letter to my legislator since you seem so keen on?
Are you gonna help me run my campaign? Can you donate to my campaign?
We're getting sassy over here.
I'm sorry.
And I'll say this very quickly about because I feel like I need to and this was touched on in the 60 Minutes piece actually. That whole notion of you get what you vote for. Caitlyn and I, particularly on social media, get that
Oh, yeah.
all the
Oh, we
time,
do too.
constantly.
That's like
All day,
that's the
every-
only thing
yeah.
they got,
So
man.
here's my response to that is, okay, what we're dealing with today has been going on for literally generations, right? The GOP has been in control in this state for 12 years.
Yeah.
Total and complete control.
Total, complete control for 12 years. Don't sit there and tell me you get what you vote for when we've been neglected by both parties.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's the only answer is
Right.
this isn't a blue and red issue.
It's
This
not.
is an industry issue that isn't, the industry has been allowed to do whatever they want with no accountability. And as a result, we're suffering with
And
that.
as I often say, the neglect and the harm done to us and our communities has been a bipartisan affair
Absolutely.
has.
for generations.
hating on the poor in Appalachia
And that's why
is everybody's.
That's why you
gig,
have
know?
these huge districts with a lot of unaffiliated voters. You know, you have all of these districts with folks who are unaffiliated because our generation recognizes that neither party has been serving us
Right.
properly in this state. And then, as a matter of fact, that's been part of the game to keep us here.
And it's also why McDowell County had the lowest voter turnout in the state.
Yes.
Because why would you vote when, regardless of who you put in office, nothing ever changes?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think too to take it back to hope in that vein, right? Like, I was talking with Amy Jo Hutchinson this week, and one of the things she said was like, y'all are stirring up demons, and it's like I think that a lot of what Brad and I have been trying to do is myth busting.
Yeah.
It's the y'all voted for it, or just filter it, or we do fund water projects in the Coalfields. It's taking the propaganda that is fed to us and myth busting it, right?
Yes.
As far as the stirring the demons, it's one of those things that like we have not been able to claim our narrative in a national space forever, but it was super cool to see 60 Minutes finally show the Bernie Obama votes, or finally show a different perspective on that you voted for it bit. And Brad fought hard for that in our interviews. And I think one of the things I think about with in the Bible, there's Luke 4, and Jesus comes up, he starts his ministry, and he says, we're gonna go out and break the chains of the oppressed. We're gonna open eyes. We're gonna do all these things. And what happens is he starts to say to love your enemy, and they go to throw him off a cliff. Luke, this is early on in Luke, right? His first sermon, they went to throw him off a cliff. And I think like we are seeing the love your enemy and the throwing off the cliff every single day.
Yes.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So much.
Everything. But you know what? We need to talk about this whole y'all voted for it thing, because we need to, one, dispel the myth, and two, start waking people up to no party has helped us, because we could vote a different way tomorrow and that doesn't fund water projects.
That's right.
Yes,
I bet,
exactly.
we can have an election in November. Will that change anything next session?
Just saying, vote. We can't just vote our way out of this.
Right.
You cannot just vote your way out of this. And so I think the hope in it for me is that it's getting us talking about how both parties have not been there for us. Yeah. And it's also getting people to get out of this, like, we have been intentionally intentionally distracted by so many things.
Oh yeah.
For example, now we're bombing schools of children in Iran this morning to distract from other issues in our nation.
Yeah,
right?
today is February 28th. That's when we're doing it, because we know by the time this comes out, God only knows
What new
kind
bombing
of
has
news
happened,
story
right?
has come out.
Right. And so, we are distracted and divided by so many things.
And clean water is that issue that it don't matter what colors you're wearing and who you vote for. It affects everybody.
That's
and
right.
I think there is a potential for this issue to start breaking down that barrier, because when, like you said earlier with the flood, when you really need somebody to help you muck, it don't matter, right?
No, nobody cares.
We need to remember that we rely on each other again, because that's what happened, and that's what started the mine wars.
Yes.
People stood in solidarity and said, I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you look like or what you sound like. I need you.
We share a common enemy.
It ain't about, folks, listen, it ain't about red or blue.
Yeah.
It's about me and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we've got to come to grips with and comprehend.
And I think West Virginia has some shadow work to do too. When you think about the psychology of our culture, like, we really need to open up those places and shine a light in it and say, we understand what's happened and how it has impacted us collectively, right? Let's unpack that. Let's look at it, and be honest about it. And it's not, again, I think we are evolved past, or working on evolving it past, it's us against coal miners, because you said that this man that you interacted with was an underground coal miner being called a tree hugger. Do you know, for somebody like me that was around when the first Save a Miner's Job, Kill a Tree Hugger bumper sticker came out, how much it means that the coal miners are standing up now and talking about it? How much it means that there are no barriers between us when it comes to that anymore in certain areas, and how important that is. Yeah. Just building on the point that you said about the solidarity, right?
Just within the past couple years, because
because they're having to pay to have their wells redug. They're having to, they're taking the hit, and they're losing their jobs, and they're getting killed because safety is not being enforced, and
their kids are getting cancer.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we could talk all night about this, but go ahead. I want you to.
If you're on Route 119 on the side of the road on the Mingo-Logan line, y'all are filling from the same stream. If you're on Route 52 in Mayberry on the Mercer-McDowell line, you're getting water from the same stream.
That's right. Yep. That's exactly right. It's all coming from the same spot.
And so, hope for me, there's a man named Walter Brueggemann, and he says that hope is the refusal to accept the reading of reality that is the majority opinion. I just refuse to accept to say that the Coalfields are lost and nothing can be changed.
I can't have that kind of mindset.
No.
I refuse to accept that West Virginians can't come together or we're all lost. I refuse to accept that. The reading of reality that says nothing can change is just what I refuse to accept.
Yeah.
And so that is my hope.
Well, here's to the change makers. Here's to the change makers and the folks like you out there guiding and leading and providing a place for your communities to laugh out loud when the pastor calls on them and says, let's do something for this community down there. And you hear a laugh from the galley. That's real, true community. That's a faith community where someone has that much audacity, so to speak, to push back. But that's where beautiful things happen.
Amen.
So. Oh gosh,
that's the way it should be.
We got to wrap this up, babe.
I know. I love you guys so much.
We love you all. Thank you all so much for having us.
Well, thanks for coming. We saw you on the national news the other day. I was like, I know that guy.
And seeing Caitlyn up in Charleston is like, I know her.
Oh,
what's
that's
she doing?
my friend.
Look at her kicking it up there. So
look at her giving Morrissey shit. Oh my God, I love it.
And I want to, say this for our audience too, that we've created a platform here. We intend to expand soon. We have another group of folks who have some education issues that they feel deserve time and discussion, and so
policy altogether.
So we have kind of another podcast cooking that's independent of the three people here, but we have a platform where we can host multiple podcasts. So if you have things that you want to coalesce and talk about, particularly as we lead up to election times and things like that, it needs to be a place where we've talked about the value of social media and how it's helped build this movement so far. let's maximize it as long as we can, because who knows how long it'll actually be there, right?
Let's do it while we can. And this is a platform for us to have a voice, to be able to speak the way we want it, to say it the way we want it. We don't have to negotiate with CBS to be like, now you need to put this in there. No, we put in what we want. We put in what we want. And
it's mostly Lindsay going off, which is fantastic.
Look, that's why I made a platform, because I was just in my kitchen going, and Elisa's like, get a microphone here.
I think the rest of the world needs to hear this. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and we'll put some information about who you are and where you are in the notes when we post the episode. And I guess anything else y'all want to say before we wrap up?
I don't know. I love y'all. Just come back sometime. We will have you back again. Caitlyn, in person.
Yeah.
That's right.
By the creek.
No
We gotta
ifs,
go to the
ands, or
creek.
buts about
We
it.
gotta go to the creek.
And
Yeah.
this summer, when it warms up, we'll do it by the creek. So we'll get maybe, what's going on with the policy, what's happening here in a few months. So thank you again.
Keep up the good work.
fight.
Yes. Thank
Bless
you
you.
so much.
Thank y'all. Love y'all.
Y'all take care.